All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could have a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. Do a roll call. Mr. Cos?
Here.
Here. Ms. Smith here? Here. Mr. Stephen? I know he's here.
Here.
Public comment. I think we got Marcus. I think Marcus is the one on the counter. Marcus, come on up. It's 3 minutes.
That's it. 3 minutes.
Sir, good to see you. You got 3 minutes.
I'm sorry?
Please give your name and address.
Yes, absolutely. Good morning. My name is Marcus Major. I have a farm where I raise crops at, currently right now it's 000A McIntyre Road, because we haven't built our home on it yet. And with me is my next door neighbors who have the other 40 acres, Dave and Gina Howie, who live right next door to Pete Barrett's, who live next door to the McCalls. And the reason I'm here today to speak in less than 3 minutes is I led the protest petition on the rezoning of R50 to R25 on the property described as McCalls, 16421 McIntyre Road, 66048. I am not here in any opposition at all to the McCalls. Nothing negative to say about the McCalls at all. I do not know them. That's not what we're here. I am here to talk about the future land use plan that was approved that plots the 2.5 acres. Part of our property is not that 2.5 acres of the land plan use zone. So I'm asking you to please go back and relook what the McCalls are trying to do with the 2.5 acres. Could it be solved with use of 5 acres with the family versus 2.5? Currently, right now, it exceeds, if we go to the 2.5 and you approve it, it will exceed your own regulation that accessory buildings on a tract or less than 2.51 acres in an area shall not occupy more than 2.5% of the square footage of the lot of the tract, in which this does exceed if we approve this today. Now, can barn structures and everything get moved? Sure it can. But that's not what we're opposing. So I did a petition and lessons learned, cold and ice and snow. Not everybody could sign it that was the landowners, but I did get majority of the neighbors to sign it. And let me just state that this is not a neighbor versus neighbor. Has nothing to do with neighbors versus the McCalls. It's not. It's the principle. And I stand in front of you to address the principle. The principle is, yes, we have a 2.5 acre land use plan, and it was voted and approved on. We do not fall in that. That's the reason why they come to the 5, and to change that. But I think if we take the time to push back and relook how this goes into place and have a plan to plan, maybe work sessions, maybe other meetings, it could, in fact, allocate enough time for all of us to come together as a group and a community in Leavenworth to look at the future of Leavenworth versus, well, if we do the 2.5, we can put a lot of rooftops in, which would bring a lot of taxpayers. That's not really the plan. Rooftops and taxes do not pay for what we as a Leavenworth County need to get done, right? May not pay for all the roads, may not pay for this. It is a way. But I close in this as my 3 minutes are ending. The way that we're going to make this funding is the heroic work that each and every one of you all did in that bridge network from 152, 435, into Leavenworth Lansing.
Okay, thank
When
you.
that comes in, that's going to explode.
Okay, thank you.
That's where you're going to get your tax dollars revenues, not turning neighbors into neighbors, which is not what I'm here for.
Thank you, Marcus.
I really appreciate it. Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you for coming and speaking. Is any other I don't think there was any other comments.
I did have a question, which will come up later, but for Crystal,
Can we hold
is this
that?
within the land use plan?
Mike, can we hold that?
I could hold it, but that's the question I have. Is
Okay, would you just write down,
Right.
so, because we're going to be addressing that anyway, and I know there's probably going to be a few more questions on that. If there's no more of the public comment, we can head to administrative business. One thing I want to bring up in administrative businesses and see how the county commissioners feel about is, I've witnessed a couple of times that, and I think y'all bounced this back and forth a few times, I've witnessed a couple of times in our work sessions that sometimes our commissioner meetings go a long time, and we got people standing and waiting an hour or an hour and a half, and I can understand that if you're on the agenda. I was wondering if there's any thought of maybe locking in a time like 10:30 or whatever. I know you've tried it before, and sometimes we have to wait around till 10:30, but I got plenty of stuff to do in my office until 10:30. I just wanted to have that discussion with you folks. And Doug, you've been here
for
a long
public
time.
comment?
Yeah.
For work
No, for
session,
work
because,
session.
last week we had several people.
And the week before that, yeah. And I was thinking, could we lock in a time, or at least or think about it, brainstorm it, where we don't have citizens coming in. Now, not on the regular meeting, because that's just, you get to you when you get to it. But I'm talking about when you have a work session and people, if they had a time to come in that they knew that's when we're going to start the work session. An hour and a half for somebody to wait is to me just a long time if you're not a staff member.
We used to do, and a lot of times, sometimes we play it by ear, but a lot of times we've said the work session will be at 1:30 in the afternoon. So the commission meeting's in the morning, then we go ahead and have our work session in the afternoon.
I've had I know there's some opposition to doing it. I don't care what we decide, but I think we need to lock in a time. The reason I thought you could do 10:30 is because then the afternoons, if you have to have something that you got to do. Because most of our meetings, I see, unless we're having staff reports, most of our meetings are pretty well done by 10 or 10. But I'm open to anything that the commissioners, I just think we need to have some kind of policy so people know on work sessions when they're supposed to be here.
Like 10:45, start a work session,
That gives us plenty of time.
Okay.
So let's just give a scenario. What if we're not finished with our business? We just go into recess for the commission?
I think we should, and I don't think, as long as I'm chair, I'm going to let the staff talk for an hour on time on reports anymore. I think 15 or 20 minutes is enough for the staff and get our questions out. I think some of the questions we ask are that we can ask up front, or some that we can meet with the staff one-on-one with. But Mike, I think that we'd have to go into recess. That'd be my thoughts on that.
I don't have a problem with it.
Anybody have a problem with our work session starting, not today, of course, but starting in the future at 10:45? Vicki?
I'm all for public comment. I voted to make the time limit longer, but I don't think you can put a time on it because I don't think we've ever been done at 10:30 or 10:45, maybe once or twice, but it's always different. It's always anywhere between 10:30 and 1:30. So,
I think that what Commissioner Smith or Chairman Smith is getting at, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, is that if we have a work session scheduled that's following a meeting, like that's going to be following a meeting, and at 10:45 we're still conducting the business of the meeting, that we adjourn the meeting for that period of time, we go into the work session so that anybody that might be invited or interested in participating in the work session because they thought it was going to be at 10:45 or whatever time it was, and instead of being here sitting until 1 until we're done with our meeting, that we finish the work session and then reconvene the Board of County Commissioners meeting and finish the regular meeting agenda items.
is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The only thing
That's what I thought I was hearing.
Vicki, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
May it came out a little sideways. But at the same time, the meetings I've watched on Zoom before I was elected, y'all are good about 10:30, unless you got staff reports. Now, I love staff reports, but I think maybe we even stretch those out instead of 1 or 2 work sessions or agendas, we have more. So, because when somebody starts engaging after an hour and a half, you lose you just lose concentration. And I think so, maybe we can take a look at that, Mark. I'm just throwing something out there, guy, for whatever. But I think 10:45, if we're not completed, then we adjourn and come back in after the work session. I think would be the correct thing to do for the citizens. That's what I was trying to say, Jeff.
Yeah,
If you just did it in a
that's
better way.
So I think what
I'll
we're
go with
looking at
that.
is just trying to
Yeah,
be considerate of the,
that's it.
People that have jobs and take off work to get here.
Well, the same, I mean, I'm not opposed to that, but the same thing can be accomplished if you just said the work session will be at 1:30. And then so the folks don't have to show up till 1:30 for that work session.
Well, let me do this. Let's try, if it's all right, the majority of you, let's try 10:45. If it doesn't work, we know we want to set a time. We can always come back later and say, okay, 10:45 is not working in a couple months. We'll go to 1:30 or whatever y'all choose. Is that could we live with that to start off
I think we
with?
could get it all done in the morning.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I like Commissioner Stevens' idea about just make them all 1:30, but the 10:45 works out. That's fine with me too.
If it doesn't work out, we'll
We'll
try another.
come back and we'll go with the 1:30. So, y'all want to try at 10:45 to start off with? Mike, are you okay to see how that
Yep.
worked? Okay. Mark, we don't need a motion or anything on that, do we?
Nope, we'll just
Okay.
amend the
You
agenda.
want to make it
go
11
forward.
o'clock since that doesn't sound so weird. And
It's whatever.
I'm sure we'll be mostly done by 11 with most of them.
I'm fine with 11. It
So
doesn't matter.
That's an hour and a half,
Yeah,
for a regular meeting.
that's 2 hours.
Well, I mean, 10:45 would be
Hour and 45
hour and
minutes.
45 minutes, so
I don't,
to get it done.
Okay, 10:45 or 11, or does it matter to y'all?
Doesn't really matter.
Let's try, once again, let's try the weird number at 10:45. If that doesn't work, we know we're heading to 1:30 anyway. We're okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what sorry it took so long to do that. Mark, marching orders on that, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, administrative business?
Nothing from staff this morning.
I do have one
Go ahead, Mike.
issue. I don't know if you've been reading the news, but the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops issued a statement, and I believe other Christian groups agree with this, that the approval of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine for use in the United States again raises questions about the moral permissibility of using vaccines developed, tested, and or produced with the help of abortion-derived cell lines. So my concern would be, and we're currently, I understand, we're using Moderna in Leavenworth County, but the state of Kansas did receive a quantity of these vaccines from Johnson & Johnson, and I think if Leavenworth County Health Department moves towards that direction, that we at least ought to have informed consent or some kind of documentation indicating that the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines were derived from using agar in the experimental process of the stem cells, so people should know ahead of time that that is the case, and there are the alternatives. The bishops say, however, if one can choose among equally safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines, the vaccine with the least connection to abortion-derived cell lines should be chosen. Therefore, if one has the ability to choose a vaccine, Pfizer or Moderna vaccine should be chosen over Johnson & Johnson. So I don't know, and I was visiting with Mark this morning whether Leavenworth County has the right to decide what vaccines we take from the state, but maybe that's something we should inquire about. But certainly if we do end up administering the Johnson & Johnson or the AstraZeneca, we should have informed consent to the folks before they have that injected into their arm. So Mark, did you have a comment on what you thought about as far as whether we have any discretion?
Well, I think, that right now we're lucky to get the number of vaccinations that we receive. We don't have any discretion as far as I know because that's the only thing they're sending to us. I mean, they haven't ever reached out to us and said, you want this or this.
And that's the Moderna.
Yeah, that's what we're using currently. So I'm not familiar with the Johnson & Johnson as far as availability. We've not had anything like that. Moderna's all that we've received. And I don't know that if the state said we're going to send you XYZ vaccine, that we have the ability to say, no, we want the other kind. But I'm assuming we would have the ability to say we don't want it at all, just not pick which one we do want.
And at the minimum, I think we should have a policy that we have informed consent so people are made aware before.
Although I completely respect what you're saying, Mike, I really, really do. I think that if there's going to be any kind of informed consent period, that there is risk associated with every vaccine. It doesn't, I mean, whether it's derived from stem cells, whether it's derived from DNA of any kind of things, from a monkey, whatever, there are risks associated. And so I think that if there's going to be an issue of informed consent when it comes to vaccinations, that perhaps we should make sure that people understand regardless. And I think it's a responsibility of me as an individual to carefully consider how or where my vaccines have been derived from. But you know, I'm struggling with what, and I understand what you're saying, but this is the issue is whether or not it's safe. The issue is whether or not it can save lives. The issue is whether or not it is available. And so I think that it is a general rule if you want to include, and I understand that any vaccine or the vaccine can contain, you know, stem cell, derived from stem cells. That in and of itself gives somebody an ability to have informed consent, that they realize and understand that that may be the process that was used for that specific.
Yeah, and in this case, it is that specific, those two specific types.
But I'm just saying, but there are other vaccines that have been, and there's other research, and they will come before us in the future. So then let people make that decision based on a blanket informed consent that says, I understand that in using this vaccine, that I have a responsibility for making sure I know what it is.
Maybe we should have us look into what our discretion is as far as what we can require, even. I don't know, maybe the attorney knows.
You know, Mike, I know where you're going with this. I'm just not sure if we're not stepping over what people's rights are and what we need to know. I understand, Vicki, and I take a point to what you're saying, but, you know, if you have a release or something like that, there are so many things in the world that cause so many things. And I think if you start narrowing those things down like that and not let the person make that decision, then we're heading down a road I don't want to go.
Well, we're talking about letting the person make the decision so that they're informed.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mike.
And that's
and I think they can right now. There's some talk that people did not want to get the J&J shot,
right.
But they wanted to get the Moderna.
Yeah.
And
that's what
their choice.
But I'm saying, but I think that education is coming from the church. Is my point is that but there are other individuals. Let's not make it to where, as a county, which is our governing body, that says, but I'm going to make this same choice for you, even if you do not agree.
all I'm saying is you would have a waiver that's signed acknowledging that these two.
I don't think it should just. I'm just saying I don't want to go down the road that we're narrowing anything down to between these two. I'm saying in general that anybody should. Probably we should consider that we want to make sure that we're excusing ourselves from any liability of any vaccine, regardless of what vaccine it is.
And we're not mandating or forcing people to take this vaccine.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is that
it's strictly voluntary.
Is that we're saying? I understand as that number one, any vaccine, the county is not requiring this. We don't know whether or not a school district is. We don't know whether or not anybody else is, but we as a county, we're not requiring this vaccine, whatever it is.
I just don't think it's fair to the citizens if they are not knowing that this was derived from this and then not being informed at the health department and then later finding out that this occurred, and it's something that we should let folks know if we do get to the point that this, right now it's not an issue, but the state of Kansas was delivered a lot of these vaccines.
I'm going to assume that we will probably see the Johnson & Johnson coming from the pharmacies.
Rather than
No,
a
right,
waiver,
I'm
Not
just-
necessarily from
rather
It could be.
than
Go ahead. What is it, Jeff? Go ahead.
rather than a waiver for them to sign, maybe it would be appropriate to just put an information sheet at least.
Exactly.
Right.
So that,
That's
people
what I'm
do their
saying.
own due diligence if they did enough homework. That would
I'm,
give them.
I'm very good with that.
So if they came to the health department and had a choice, then there's an information sheet.
Yeah, I agree.
Of
Of what-
vaccines history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then they can
That's a
choose.
good idea.
And it's their choice, so we can go from there.
Right.
Information's been
regardless of what
provided.
vaccine.
Yeah,
I'm just
I
saying
agree.
because there's others.
Because
Okay.
that
Is that
information-
something we need a motion on, or is that something can be handled internally?
And let me go any further. David, Counselor, do you have any concerns with what you're hearing here?
Well, Commissioner, I am familiar with the topic Commissioner Stephen is addressing. I'm concerned about asking anybody to sign a waiver in return for a vaccine, because that's kind of like saying, I'll give you this life vest, you're in the water, but you got to sign this waiver first. That's kind of a situation of duress, and I really question how valid any such waiver might be. I think the information sheet that Commissioner Culberson references is something that can be done with the information that our health department would receive, can be done at very low to no cost, and provide information to persons without putting them in a position, or the county staff in the position, of a confrontation over, if you don't sign the waiver, I won't give you the vaccine, I need the vaccine to stay alive. That's a scenario we possibly might want to try to avoid.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing from you, waiver's fine. Well, not a waiver, but a information sheet,
Yes.
basically, that when you go to do it. So we could implement that. Mark, do you have an issue with that? You see anything on that? Got your
No,
consent?
I mean, I think right now it's a solution looking for a problem because we haven't received any of these, but to be prepared is fine.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good deal. We'll go that direction. Thank you, Mike. Anything else?
Oh, on administrative business?
Yeah.
Just an update, the new Baser School on K-32 in Stillwell, is that moving forward, or do they have some things they got to get worked out?
Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, if I could speak for your county staff, because I have been involved in this. On the county's behalf, I have sent several pieces of correspondence to the engineers representing the school district as well as the superintendent of the school district, pointing out what the county staff has identified to be substantial issues with respect to the plat as being proposed and submitted before you. We are trying to encourage the school district to replat the subdivision to address those issues. I'm hopeful that at some point the school district will agree to do so. In its current format, I could not advise you to approve the forwarding of the plat. There are significant impacts on adjoining properties that are created by the current plat, as well as issues with respect to the county traffic study that was conducted. Excuse me. So at this point in time, your staff has requested that the school district submit a new plat. We believe that if the school district and their engineering team work diligently on it, staff will work diligently on it, your staff will work diligently on it to try to have this matter before the Planning Commission in April, with the matter back before you for final approval in May. We are cognizant of the concerns of the school district about their construction schedule, but they put the matter out on bid before the design, the plat had been finalized. We can't control that, but we are working with them on it.
Okay.
Anything else, Doug?
Oh, did we receive any bond for Eagle Crossing so that they could get issued building permits?
Not yet. Haven't
Okay.
received anything.
All right, but as soon as they get a bond, they will issue building permits?
Well, if it's different than what was already approved by the Board of County Commissioners, it would have to come back to this board for approval.
Oh, okay.
So the board previously approved a 2-inch overlay. There's another solution out there that staff has proposed to them that would be acceptable to us at the staff level, but it still requires board approval. If you wanted to go ahead and give that approval, as long as they came up with those standards, you could. But we've already approved one scenario that they didn't do. to approve another scenario that they may or may not agree with seems kind of pointless, but I think they have to come back to the table. It's not on us at this
Okay.
point.
Well, you're only talking a few days.
Yeah.
It would just be our next meeting. If they put
Next
up a
meeting.
bond, we could approve it.
Yep.
Okay.
It's, you know,
Because there has to be an agreement.
it's their problem.
It's not just the-
really. I mean,
Right,
at
right.
this point,
Right. But I do know staff had been working with folks, and I didn't know if they got a final resolution.
nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any Commissioners, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, if not, we'll move on to consent agenda. Anything needs to be pulled, or everybody okay?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on these issues? All right, Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 It passes. Okay, now time for formal board action. This one's to consider a motion to approve Resolution 2021 rezoning from R5 to R2.5 on tract of land located at 16421 McIntyre Road. Good morning, Crystal.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Open up for discussion. Or Crystal, if you need to say anything, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we have before you a Resolution 2021-6. This is a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5. This request is located at 16421 McIntyre Road. The applicants in this case are seeking to perform a tract split to separate their home from their 40 acres of agricultural land, subject to the approval or denial of this rezoning request. They own approximately 42.8 acres, meaning a tract split under the current zoning would capture a section of their agricultural land. What they're attempting to do is to keep the 40 acres all by itself and then split off the 2.8 acres. It is important to note that this parcel is within the residential land use category of the future land use map, which actually allows for up to 3 units per acre, which is significantly more dense than what the applicants are requesting. Staff is supportive of this rezoning request because sanitary sewer is not available at that location. Sanitary sewer is, of course, necessary for 3 units per acre. The city does not have immediate or even medium long-term plans to extend sanitary sewer to this area. And given the direction of the board in the past, staff recommends approval of this request. A protest petition was filed with the county clerk's office on February 24th. However, that protest petition was invalid and it failed. Therefore, this just requires a simple majority to approve it or to deny it, either or. The applicant is here and will answer any questions you may have. We'll stop.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you have any, now, this family has been paying taxes on this property for 75 years?
It's my understanding that they've been there for a few generations. Yes, Commissioner?
Okay.
Yeah, Mike?
Crystal, I just want to clarify on this land use plan, they are in the peach color, they're the residential 3 units. That's right, they're not, I was thinking they were over here in the it's in the 3 units per acre. Okay. That's clarification. Thanks.
Okay.
This,
Jeff, Vicki?
when we talk about preserving agriculture, this is preserving agriculture. You have 2.5 acres and farm the rest.
Well, the 40-acre threshold, I think, is what's driving this. So the piece left over.
What do you mean the 40-acre threshold?
Well, so this area is zoned 3 units for 1 acre
The
If there was
area is
sewer.
zoned rural residential 5 currently.
currently.
Under the future land use plan.
That's what I meant. The
It is
future
3
land.
units.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, I didn't mean to say zone.
And I understand that, it's a difficult discussion and a difficult decision, and I understand what Commissioner Smith is saying, and I understand what our guest was saying, and the people that have the concerns with the petition. But I think that, and I'm just letting everybody know. You guys know me. I'm one that says let's stay with what we're supposed to be doing. I feel like just because right now the city of Lansing has no intention whatsoever of moving in that direction, that does not mean a next round of city council members won't say, we want to capture this part of our urban development, our zone, because within 1/2 mile. And we need to, I've told you, we need to prepare for those infrastructures as a county. We need to continue, as we're close to the cities, to look at and prepare for that. And so, am I making sense?
Vicki,
By leaving by having this 2.5 acres, you're leaving another 2.5 acres for 3 units per acre. If the city were to come out that way.
Okay, but what about the use? I was listening and reading the utility buildings and things. How is all of this? I mean, and then are we prepared to really make the decision of what to do with this specific land with the knowledge that we have right now?
Well, we just spent $300,000 on a comp plan.
Okay.
I think we need to
And
go by our comp plan.
Right, but our comp plan isn't for 2.5 acres.
Well, it's for three units per acre in this area.
Right.
And they're not asking for that.
Mike, go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is a question for Crystal. There were some issues raised about how many outbuildings there are
Right.
and what the regulations are on that. Can you kind of address how that was looked at the planning commission level and what the rules are?
Of course. So, first of all, I think it's important to know that, this is a rezoning request before us. Next would be the track split, correct? Staff's job is to make sure that track split would meet the regulations, and staff definitely knows about the 600 square foot, or about the 2.5% on parcels that are 2.51 acres and smaller. Staff would not approve a track split that came through that was less than 2.5 acres. What they're actually proposing is 2.8 acres is what has been brought to staff's attention. That exceeds 2.5, so that 2.5 percentage is null and void.
So they're in compliance with all the regulations as far as the outbuildings?
Yes, what they're proposing. And again, staff would not approve if they came in and they wanted to make it 2.5 acres exactly. That wouldn't meet the threshold. So staff wouldn't approve it. Staff would say, no, this has to be larger than 2.51 acres because this barn is on here and it exceeds that 2.5%.
So on the next step is where it would be, those
Correct.
type of issues would be caught?
Correct.
That's all.
Jeff, anything on this?
No, that's exactly what I was going to add.
Okay.
When we did the first 2.5, wasn't it on your area? I believe it's Soxy's.
I think so.
That made a lot of sense on preserving the farm ground. They wanted to split the tracks off by the road.
Okay, I'll just say this. I've told folks before, and I know the McCaws. He was a reserve officer for me for one time, a long time ago. Did a great job, and I know Marcus Majors. He's on the Lansing City Council, and I've known the people in the audience. So this is taking the friendship out and stuff like that. I've always had a difficult with this because I wasn't here and Chad was at the time, and I'm just trying to catch up. And that's why I think when the commissioners we made a recommendation to go back and review this and answer a couple of questions that I think we got some concerns on. I was all for that, and I asked Mark this morning when that's coming. He said it'll be coming pretty soon. Again, this is I see both sides of this, and I'm really having a tough time with this. But I just wanted to share that with you, and if everyone's through, we can get a motion, decide what we want to do.
I have a question. I understood that Joe was going to allow one of us to speak. Maybe he didn't say that.
Joe, there's a lot of speakers.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
applicant can
Yes,
speak.
ma'am. Come on up. I'm sorry. I didn't know you wanted to. Name and address. We know who you are, but we'll have to say it
I'm
anyway.
going to take this off because my voice isn't
Okay.
very, very well. I'm Beth McCall, and our current address is 16459 McIntyre Road. And I just wanted to state that it amazed us to begin with that 26 people signed a petition. We only got 2 phone calls to ask us what we were doing. This land has been split over the last 76 years when David's parents bought it right after World War II. And it's always been done legally. We have never gone against the county at all. We've always done everything legally. We're the last remaining owners on that entire strip of McIntyre. And we have watched over the years as land has sold around, all the farmland has been sold around us and changed into different subdivisions or just split-offs. We don't deny that we want everyone to have a piece of the country. That's what people like to do. They like to move to the country. Unfortunately, we've seen our part of the country almost be an entire subdivision. We have no desire to set up another subdivision at all. David and I recently moved in with our children who live next door, and we will spend our remaining years there. Due to a change in health, we needed to move there. And we just went to sit on the deck and look down toward the tree line and watch the coyotes and the deer and everything else go by. We have no desire to turn that into any kind of subdivision. We are trying to keep this land in the family, and the person that wants to buy, he originally wanted to buy 5 acres, and then when we talked to Joe Herring about it, we were restricted because of another plan that was in effect that was passed by zoning and planning about some kind of percentage of frontage based on the back part of the land, and I still haven't figured it out. So that's why we requested 3.8, as much as we could give my nephew to keep this in the family. The plan farther down the road, after David and I have a chance to talk to our children, is more of that land will be sold to this nephew of mine as soon as we decide what we're going to do to divide the rest of our land with our children. And David's sister owns the adjoining land, and she is going through the same thing right now because of their age. We want to leave this in the family. We are not turning it into a subdivision. The house that's sitting on the land is 130 years old. I have the complete abstract of the land clear back to the Homestead Act. This house was originally a peg and beam house. It's been added on to 4 times. It's always been there. I know it's close to the road, but that's where they put it when they built the post and beam construction. So we don't have any desire to create any kind of subdivision. We are just doing this to make it a little easier on our children and as we make these decisions on how to keep this land in the family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, commissioners, there's no other discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution 2021-6, a rezoning from RR5 to RR2.5 on a tract of land located at 16421 McIntyre Road.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other more discussion on it?
I just would like to say a couple things. Is this land use plan is what we go by when we make these decisions. We went through a long process to get to the fact that we have this land use plan. Now, there are exceptions when there's drainage issue or when there's some other issue that can cause us to deviate from the land use plan. But if there is no such issue and we would just make a arbitrary and capricious decision, then there could be a lawsuit involved. So we have to follow what the plan is, because people have the right to use their land, and that's really what it comes down to.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Cause?
Aye.
She voted aye.
She what?
She voted aye, I think.
You voted yes?
Yes. And what's very happy, I had begun saying that I was not, but
Well, you got to vote what your conscience tells you. That's what you did. So we're good. Culberson?
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Okay, next item is
Bring that up right now.
That's Crystal again. Go ahead,
Yes,
Crystal.
I will be here for the duration, Commissioners. I do actually want to bring something up, since it came up several times here. Staff is requesting a work session with the Planning Commission on March 24th to go over the comprehensive plan, to do some goal setting like we've talked about, like we have spoken about. We would love for that to be a joint work session. It is at 5 o'clock, because as you know, my planning commissioners are volunteers, and 5 o'clock is about the earliest that I can convince them to get here.
Okay, that's
So-
fine.
And what day of the week is that?
It's a Wednesday, March 24th.
Is
it
it?
is.
And that's fine.
Okay.
Where's that held? I should know that, but
We'll do it right here,
Yeah.
in here. Okay,
You said
great.
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
Commissioners, y'all, everybody okay with that? Sounds like a good idea.
Try to be there. That's not at Baser City Council, but
Wednesday,
I
so-
believe that night, but I'll make it.
It's probably more. Yes, sir.
I don't hear that well. Did we get to sell our house?
Yes.
Yeah.
It passed.
Yes, it was approved.
Okay. Usually I don't. I'm trying to talk louder because people complain about that, Leopard Times and everybody else. So I'm sorry if they don't, just ask me. Okay, we're good on that. Crystal, go ahead.
All right, got it. Commissioners, I have before you Resolution 2021-7. This is a request to approve the resolution. This is a special use permit for a bed and breakfast known as The Barn. It is located on Eisenhower Roadway. The applicants have finished a portion of an accessory building across from their home, installing 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a living area. They anticipate an average of 4 guests at a time between the 2 bedrooms. They expect guests to generally be couples and small families arriving in 1 to 2 vehicles. They hope to generate about 12 overnight stays per month. This is in accordance with the Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations. The Planning Commission voted 9-0 to recommend approval of this. Staff recommends approval of it, and there is no protest decision.
Commissioners?
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any either. This one's going us straight to the facts. Vicki, you have anything on this? Mike? Okay, I entertain a motion then.
I move that we approve Resolution 2021-7, a special use permit for the barn B&B, subject to all conditions.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Stevens?
Aye.
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 Aye, vote approved. Next one.
Right along.
Oh, Crystal, I tell you, you're in a lot of these. You and Bill. Go right here, Crystal.
2 more. Commissioners, this is a request to approve Resolution 2021-8. This is a special use permit for pool heat, KC, and HVAC repair services. The property is located on 15890 Linwood Road, down in the southern portion of the county. The applicant is currently operating an HVAC repair business out of his home. He's doing so without a special use permit. The primary concern of this business is not with the repair of the units, which takes place off-site. The applicant is currently storing used and discarded materials at his home. He does not currently have a building, which staff has made very clear that a building is required to store those materials inside. He doesn't have traffic coming to the property. He doesn't have employees coming to the property. It's really not a burden on the community other than currently it's an eyesore. The Planning Commission recommended to approve this subject to conditions. One of those conditions was that this SUP shall be limited to a period of a year because we are requiring that they build that outbuilding to house this. The Commission actually amended it to state that the building shall be completed by September 1st, 2021, so that we can go ahead and get that taken care of and not have it outstanding. Staff is certainly supportive of that request of the Planning Commission. Recommends approval of this subject to the Planning Commission's recommendations.
Mike?
So you're saying if this is going to have to come back in front of us in a year?
If approved, yes.
If approved, I guess my question would be, can we approve it with a longer term contingent upon the fact that
Yes,
gets
that's the intention of this, Commissioner. We just didn't want to give a 5-year period, and then for 5 years, those repair units or those units be sitting out on the ground.
so we don't have to have it keep coming back?
Well, I agree, Commissioner Stevens. If they're not in compliant, then you can pull their permit at any
Right.
time. So if they violate any of the conditions. And this particular property, which I don't know if any of you went out and looked at it, it's surrounded by commercial already. Across the street, the glass company and all that. And then you got the convenience store correct right there. And then you also got another special use permit just over the hill from them, the plumbing.
I mean,
and it's on a state highway.
We don't want to have these things coming back and back and
exactly
back.
Over and over again.
Because believe it or not, these are the only businesses we're getting in this county.
So we can say with go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, you could make the term for 5 years. If the building isn't up by the time in September, we'll pull the permit.
Exactly.
That's what I was saying. Just give them a 10-year even,
Yes,
but
well,
put a condition on it
10
for
years.
1 year
Yeah,
for the
10
building.
Yes, sir. You want to address the? Yes. Come on up.
I'm
Name.
assuming he's the applicant.
Yeah, I think so. Name and address, sir.
My name is Richard Rogers. I own Cooley KC 15890 Linwood Road. My only concern with the September 1st deadline is we are told it's 14 to 16 weeks waiting on metal for the building, and I don't want to put a deposit on it until we get the final okay, so we keep getting that end date keeps getting closer and closer, and that's if there's no other issues with getting the metal physically here.
Well, that makes sense. So
Yeah,
it's
pull the permit.
Commissioner.
Pull a permit or anything.
Right, because I don't want to pull a permit until we get the okay to do it, and so that's why
I told David, you have some.
Set a time potentially for the time, because I understand materials and the lead time and things for materials for you to be able to get this, but we need to set somehow.
Yeah,
I think we have a couple of things we'd like to contribute.
go ahead.
Well, Commissioners, I'm sure you're all familiar with the term force majeure, which boils down to act of God, i.e. weather delays, which are incumbent in any contract. There's also the legal doctrine of impossibility. If Mr. Rogers endeavors to his best ability to get metal, and guess what? There's no metal on the market. It's impossible for him to comply with that September date. My thought would be leave the September date in there. Mr. Rogers runs into problems, he can keep planning and zoning apprised. The goal is to get the building up as soon as he can. If it can be done before September, great. I hope you find a canceled load somewhere and are able to pick it up. But
that's the only part that makes me nervous is they're
It's
saying it's
real.
at least 14 weeks from the time that we.
Commissioners,
place
if
the
I
order.
could offer this, if you were to pass this with a 10-year period, keep the September deadline. If Mr. Rogers shows staff that he has been unable to get the building materials, this matter will not be brought back before you for any revocation of the permit. If Mr. Rogers decides he doesn't want to build the building just at his convenience, it will be back before you. I don't think that's going to happen.
If I could, I think the issue here, I think that Crystal brought up is the outside storage. So I think if for whatever reason the building can't be built by September 1st, I think there would be a realistic expectation, though, because this is also a neighborhood, that maybe that outside storage go away while we're waiting for the building if you can't get it done by September. So that and it doesn't look like there's a whole lot, according by the picture. I may not be seeing it all, but by the picture, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot. So I think that would be our expectation, is if we can't get the building up by September, at least that the storage go someplace else while we're waiting for the building to get completed.
He's quite a ways off the road too.
Where did September come from? I mean, if it's 1 year from when we issue the permit.
Commissioners, if you wanted to put November 1st, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I think that.
I think Mark hit the nail on the head. The issue is to have the material moved indoors as quickly as possible or moved off-site.
But a year from when we issue it would be March 2022 or whatever.
Staff's
issue date.
original recommendation was that the building be built within the year.
Okay.
The planning commission amended
Okay.
and put the additional condition in September.
Okay. Are you ready for a motion?
Yeah, I am.
I move we, let me find that. I move we approve Resolution 2021-7 Special Use Permit for Barn B&B, subject to.
I think that's the wrong one.
Dash 8.
It's number 6.
You're off the line
sorry.
there.
Sorry.
We just approved that one.
2021. I missed the check mark. Motion to approve Resolution 2021-8 Special Use Permit for Cool Heat, KC, and HVAC repair service, subject to 1 year from date of issue of the permit, to construct a building to house materials.
I'll second that.
Did you mention the 10 years?
Yeah, the SUP should go 10 years.
10-year SUP with a 1-year condition on getting a building built.
I'll
1 year
second
from
that.
the issue date.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any other concerns? We've changed that a little bit up. Mike, you have anything on that?
Just, I mean, they'll work with you if there's issues.
Yeah,
I know they're going to work with you.
Thanks,
I
Ben.
don't think the
Fair.
concrete, I mean, what I foresee is the concrete's going to be poured and then we're waiting on metal.
Right.
So,
And that way they can come back to us
Yeah.
after 1 year.
I think
They
that,
get the building built or they get it
I think
pulled.
it's a good time frame.
Right.
It's fair for everybody because you know what the
Does that work
requirements
for
are
you?
now. So
We'll give
if
it
you're
till
good-
March or April of the next year.
Yeah, we'll have it up this
Okay.
summer, fall, just depends on.
Yeah, because materials is really strange right now.
Tell me about it.
That's my
That's
wife
why I
and I are
said,
like,
now
oh my gosh, what do we do?
Yeah.
and we really want to support small businesses like yours, and we appreciate that you're doing it.
Well, on top of that, too, the county's here to work with businesses. We want to see growth. And I think when you come back, the great recommendation from the Planning Commission, like the other concerns, and the commissioners make the final one, but I think the years are fair for everybody. So we look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you for settling Leavenworth County with a business. We need more of them.
Okay, got a motion, and
Because I just ordered beams and they're on a 6-month wait.
That's
So-
what it is.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
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 All right.
Passes 5-0. Very good. Crystal, is it your day?
It is Christmas Day.
Okay, go right ahead.
Final request I have before you is a resolution to approve Resolution 2021-9, which is special use permit for a solar farm. The applicants are proposing a solar farm located directly next to an existing substation for Free State Electric. The existing substation has a current lifetime special use permit. This location is ideal given the proximity to the existing substation and the open area, which is necessary, obviously, for solar farms. The proposed solar farm is located on a parcel that's approximately 6.9 acres. The solar farm is expected to generate up to 1 megawatt of solar energy. Staff did have concerns regarding the runoff from the panels. The applicant submitted a drainage study. Olson accepted that drainage study. There will be no measurable runoff. So there are no concerns there. The use will not cause additional traffic or noise. Staff recommends approval of the special use permit. Given the nature of the use, staff does recommend a lifetime SUP of this. The applicant is here and will answer any questions you may have. The Planning Commission voted 9-0, to recommend approval of this.
Go ahead, Mike.
Some of you may have received the memo that David wrote. In Sedgwick County, I talked to one of the commissioners there, and he said they have 5 or 6 of these that have popped up in Sedgwick County, and they did enact an ordinance to regulate the reclamation and kind of put guidelines on this. My understanding is from visiting with Mark that this particular SUP has already considered those in the contract, and maybe you can address that in a minute. But moving forward, I think it would be probably a good idea if we had staff draft our own type of a provision and ordinance for this type of development, because it's probably going to come back in the future.
Councilor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, I'd like to thank Commissioner Stephen for finding and providing to me the Sedgwick County resolution that deals with both wind farms and solar farms. Utilizing the solar energy conversion system solar farm criteria, I provided you basically, I think, 3 issues that would be appropriate for consideration in the issuance of a special use permit. And I believe you can achieve today the regulatory controls that Sedgwick County has, and Commissioner Stephen, I think, feels is important through the implementation of conditions. Your staff will work on preparing regulations to apply to future solar farms and wind energy farms. I think we can provide the level of regulatory protection that those future regulations will provide through the use of conditions today. And those conditions that I identified were a solar glaze hazard analysis, i.e. you don't want to blind pilots when they fly over it. And I believe this farm does not fall within the requirements under the FAA for the conduct of such analysis. It's far enough out of the flight paths. The second is the Sedgwick County does require fencing of the site. I would believe it's probably best left to Free State as to what degree of security they feel is necessary to restrict access to the solar farm. They may wish to address that with you, but fencing is required in Sedgwick County. And finally is site reclamation. In my memo, I point out we currently require cellular towers to have a bond posted for their reclamation. I would suggest that Free State be requested to provide to us a reclamation plan. Doesn't particularly need to be submitted today, but at some point in the near future, that plan be reviewed and resubmitted every 5 years. I'm not recommending that Free State be required to post any bond or letter of credit. I believe their history in Leavenworth County is sufficient to provide assurance that they are responsible for their own facilities. So those would be my comments with respect to that.
Okay.
Do you want to address us? Okay. You come forward and name and address, please, and welcome.
Good morning. Eric Wiley, Engineering Manager for Free State Electric Cooperative, 816 Church Street, Tonganoxie. Yes, you can either direct me or I can start. As far as the reclamation, as part of our easement agreement with today's power, there's a section 7.1.2 for removal of system. It basically states once either the lease expires or Free State requests, that the tenant shall remove the system from the property, and the tenant shall return the property to its original condition except for those underground system support structures and electric and wiring components more than 2 feet below the ground. Ordinary wear and tear, and tenant shall leave the property in neat and clean order. The tenant shall remove the system within commercially reasonable speed and in all cases within 1 year from the expiration date. And the cost is borne solely by the tenant.
And Commissioners, I think that would be sufficient as the reclamation plan.
Okay.
And I can provide a copy of this.
Certainly.
And that's a contract that you made with
Today's power, yes, sir.
Today's Power. Okay, and today's, kind of explain that, the entities involved here.
So the entities are Free State Electric Cooperative, which is an electric cooperative, and Today's Power is basically a solar renewable energy company. They provide solar, battery storage, and they are actually owned by Arkansas Electric Cooperatives, and they're based in Little Rock, Arkansas. So they're actually part of the cooperative family as well. But we've entered into a 25-year lease with Today's Power for them to provide 1 megawatt of energy to us.
Okay.
I think we need to do what we can to lower the rates. Everything helps.
Jeff, Vicki, y'all need.
Especially, we needed all the power we could get a couple of weeks ago.
As far as the fencing address, that is in the civil site plans that were submitted. It will be a standard 6-foot chain link fence with 3 stands of barbed wire, which is 7 feet tall, and that is basically the same requirements that the National Electric Safety Code requires us to put around substations.
And I'm assuming you picked the location because of its proximity to the substation.
That is correct.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know you wanted it in Easton, didn't you?
Yeah.
Keep working.
It's in my backyard.
Yeah, I know.
And I support it.
Well, thank you, Doug. Okay.
I drive by it every day.
And just an interesting fact. I mean, all the power that's being generated there and delivered to that substation will be distributed back out of that substation, so it's not leaving and going anywhere else. That power will remain in Leavenworth County.
It's in my backyard, but I'm on Evergy. I'm not on Free State.
Uh-oh.
And I think
Go ahead, Vicki.
there's not a whole lot of reason to make any. I agree with Commissioner Steedman that in the future we probably need to have staff because we're probably going to be looking at these types of things more so in the future. But for the purpose of this application, I think we kind of have it covered. That's my.
Yeah. You're going to see.
take.
You're
I agree.
absolutely right. You're going to see more of these in
Right,
Garland. We've got
we
coal
need to-
fire power
We need to
plant.
have something that's kind of a
Yep.
standard
I
that
agree.
we have established. But I think that and we've got some good material to make sure
Yeah.
that we have
In the
all
big
of
picture
bases
here,
covered by what we received from Free State, what we have from Sedgwick, and what we have. I mean, in our application packet, that we've got everything we need.
I feel like we're covered.
I think I would feel comfortable approving it as submitted
I
from
would-
the
That's
staff.
my point.
And then we would work on legislation for this board to approve that controls any future applications.
Can I make that a motion?
I do have one question. This maybe kind
Go ahead, Mike.
whoever can answer it. If the state of Kansas authorizes in the future that county can have a franchise fee or any such fees, could this SUP be revisited upon implementation of that, or do we need to put a provision in there for that?
Commissioner, I don't think so. If the state legislature were to be gracious enough to provide you financial assistance by allowing you to charge a franchise fee on top of what they would be charging,
Yeah.
that you could implement it at that time.
So even though we're approving this as a perpetual.
And Commissioner, we have no idea today whether the legislature, if they were to provide you that franchise fee, would make it prospective, that is to only future facilities. I would suggest, though, that if that comes down the road, you could impose a franchise fee. I would like I'm not recommending any type of bond on this. I am somewhat familiar with the history of that substation. Prior to the construction of that substation, the city of Tonganoxie regularly had brownouts during the summer because of the electrical infrastructure. And Free State, it was then known as Jefferson Leavenworth Cooperative, built that substation specifically to provide more power to that area. So this is not some foreign corporation, although not particularly happy with Arkansas stealing our sunshine. I think this is a particular partner, I think, in the community.
That's what I.
Okay.
Everybody likes their power.
Jeff, did you have? I'm sorry, Jeff.
I was just going to say the big picture here is the idea is to help lower people's utility bills and backup power source or added power source. So,
Vicki, did you have something else?
No, just that.
Okay, could I get a
motion?
You gonna get a motion?
I move that we approve Resolution 2021-9, the special use permit for Free State Electric Solar Farm, as
Second.
presented. And do we want to extend?
It's a lifetime.
It's a lifetime. Okay, I forgot.
Yeah.
For the lifetime.
second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion on this? Okay. Commissioner Collins?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time today.
Okay, any presentation discussion items, Mark? Anything?
Nothing on our end.
Okay.
Well, why?
Did I miss something?
No. I just said you ready for his reports.
Yeah.
Just while Crystal's here, when we're talking about these cross-access easements that some people are doing right now, on their deeds, on the plat, when someone purchases a lot or something, it specifically says on the deed that this is not a public road. I just want to make sure everybody who purchases one of these lots is that the county is covered. They don't need to be calling Public Works. They don't need to be calling, hey, I need my snow removed and all that. I just want to make sure it's.
So the deed and any title work that's done, which, as you know, happens whenever you purchase a home, the homeowners association, which is a requirement, which also has to be recorded, is referenced. That will come up in title work. The homeowners association very clearly states that it is a private road. It also states what the maintenance requirements from the property owners within that subdivision are. So while the deed may not specifically say that it is a private roadway, the homeowners association documentation, CC&Rs, which will be pulled along with it, clearly states that. It's also on the plat.
Okay. I know there's some coming up, and I just want to make sure that somebody doesn't fall through the cracks, and if we're not here and we remember, doing that, and all of a sudden the taxpayers get on the hook for taking over a gravel driveway for a road now. And, it's one thing that we're allowing, and I just want to make sure we're protected and the property owners are aware, the buyer beware thing.
Yep.
And that if that's what they want to live there, that's fine.
the point.
That's fine.
I agree.
Don't make it because you get a big snowstorm, you're going to get a call. Oh my gosh, we can't get out, and it's real.
Yeah, taking on responsibility.
So the HOA. So I guess the number of the HOA needs to be on the deed.
Okay, Vicki, do you have anything for the group? Chris, or is that all? Crystal? Anything else? All right, Crystal. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Vicki, do you have anything? Jeff, do you have anything for the?
No, that's not a bad idea, putting HOA's information
But the
on
number,
the deed.
who the contact person is instead of the road department.
Yeah, with these private roads, that's actually something we probably need to talk about.
Any HOA requires that they notify how to
That's true.
contact the HOA.
Yeah, mine does.
It's usually they assign it to a lot.
Yeah,
So one lot in that
HOA,
subdivision
that's
would be
a problem.
responsible.
Yeah.
Well, and then also properties sell.
Yeah.
Right.
Once they get in
Things
there, and
change,
that's
yeah.
how we've gotten several conversations over the years where, we don't want the county to take care of this road. We're just going to build it, and it's going to be a private road. And then new owners come in and they say, we can't get an ambulance in here.
And we've had that happen. So
we've had it happen. And
We've had it happen.
And
But
Vicki, do you have something? I'm sorry.
yeah, it was not with that. It was that we had to put the mental health task force meeting was postponed from yesterday and will be next week
Okay.
on Tuesday. And that at some point, because we've had some more additional requests and conversations about individuals expressing interest in the Cushing building, we need to kind of, I think, get some updating or some more work
session
or something to begin to kind of make some decisions and get this moving. That's just,
Right.
I know you hate, but we.
I agree.
I agree.
I
Yeah,
think we're
you're right.
kind of, we need to.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, we
Get
need
to
to
that.
move on that building.
So that's just.
So,
Okay.
So, Commissioners, the last time we talked about the building, we talked about addressing our internal needs.
Right.
We're trying to work, we've put out an RFP to get an architect on board that we can use to do the design work. The Council on Aging has a very, we mentioned when they came in for their quarterly report, they have a plan put together what they think for space. We just need to get an architect on board to make sure that that's feasible. The other entity that's looking to potentially lease from us, we're working on an agreement with them now that would come back for this board for consideration once it passes muster with our county councilor. So two of the biggest users, we're trying to get that taken care of before we get to that next level. Because if we come in and start chopping that building up before we actually have addressed the needs of the Council on Aging, we could create problems for ourselves that then we have to undo. So as soon as we get those two things going, I think then we'll be ready to start with these other agencies. And we have had a lot of interest from the entities that we provide funding to for usage. So I think that's going to be good. And I really think that 75% of that building will be allocated once we get through this round.
Yeah, I just think that, at some point, we need to kind of prioritize, even as commissioners, when we've had requests come in, because we may not all agree on what we think is and so we're going to have to do some consensus for probably, I would assume. And I think that, one of the things that I would like to ask, and I think that I've only discussed with Commissioner Culberson, is that we've had a request repeatedly, and not for a space base, but for potential temporary storage, is from Lori's house, which is Dr. Golan's project. Right now, they're spending, and this is out of their pocket, trying to get the Lori's home, and it's for the kids that are being placed in foster care but have not been placed permanently yet. And so these are those children that have been left in offices, sleeping on mattresses and things, and so it's her plan to try to address those needs. But they have they have begun to amass and have donated items, and they're spending money every month to pay for 2 storage facilities, which is completely draining out any money that they might be raising to even purchase their a place to have it or whatever. So I have asked, and I would really like to see that we might make an agreement to say, you know, you will release any liability on our part, but you may use some small corner or storage in the basement area until any kind of decision is made. And that request has been made a couple of times. And
when we discussed this the first time, we actually had another entity that wanted to provide storage in there, and we discussed it at that time, which is there's no staff over in that building.
Right.
It's not maintained in any way, shape, or form. And to start allowing storage from these other entities in there, the board at that time directed that they weren't okay with that. And I think from a staff standpoint, we really do not recommend that. Signing a waiver or whatever still doesn't completely alleviate any exposure to us, one. And two, this isn't a storage unit. And I don't think we want to start using it as one. And if the building was in use today, we wouldn't allow the use that they're asking as the other thing. So I think you put them in there, then what happens when we have to kick them out?
Well, I'm just bringing because it's been asked of 2 of us now.
I think Mark brings up a very good point. And I think also, Vicki, when you talk about having these discussions, that's something down the line that we can sure talk again. But I would be concerned with that too. Vicki, did you have anything else on that?
No, that was just.
Well, it's going to be.
Mickey.
I was just going to say about the Cushing building. It's going to be a balancing act. We just need to keep sight of the goal is keep our exemptions. So who we rent to has to be specific. To keep the tax exemption has to be medical based tenants, and the goal is to not have the county taxpayers pay utility bills and maintenance. So we want to rent out, it's a balancing act to just rent out just enough space to cover maintenance of the building, improvements, and utilities, because utilities are pretty substantial in that building. So if we rent out just enough space to cover that, then it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything for utilities and maintenance and staffing and stuff like that. And then provide a place for council on aging and all these places we were paying rent for. So it saves the taxpayers all that rent money. I think we were paying almost $80,000 a year for council on aging. So it's just a balancing act. We just want to rent out just enough space to cover our bases.
Yeah. Okay. Mike,
And I just wanted to understand that we are hearing, we are answering calls, we are looking at requests, and we are discussing so that nobody's actually being ignored or, that all of these things are being considered.
Yeah.
I think until we get an architect on board and design something we got on paper that we can
can't
look
really
at.
start.
I mean,
yeah, I agree.
The way I would do it is be out there with a can of orange paint marking stuff off in a tape measure. But that's not acceptable. I understand.
Not a building that size anyway.
But I could do it.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't like it. But we do got to understand how much square footage everyone needs, what it's going to take.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is get somebody on board to design this.
That does it for a living. That's exactly right.
And when we've got that, and everybody's got a paper in front of them, we can figure it out.
Yeah, I agree, Doug.
And the sooner the better. That's all I can say.
Yeah, me too.
And that anything that we're going to do, even for the nonprofits that might have interest, all of it's going to take time. Nothing is.
Yeah.
This isn't something that's
going to happen overnight. I agree.
This is a multi-year project.
Right. That's kind of why I was. That's why I kind of wanted to slide it back in here again.
Mike, did you have anything further?
Well, I just will pay compliments to the county councilor who came to Linwood and gave a very good presentation on what's required to have a fire district.
No, I don't even talk about that.
And and we did talk about whether there'd be amendments that would make sure that certain other things that have occurred in the past don't happen in the future. But the folks down there, I think, are very interested. There's some issues that have to be worked out among the township people in each township, and but Mr. Van Paris was very well prepared, and he did a great job.
Well,
You should have some experience now, so.
That's a great idea, Dan. That's a great idea.
Yeah, he made me give a 10-minute speech while we were waiting for him to get to the.
You had to entertain. So,
And we know that's not a problem for you, Mike, let me tell you. Go ahead, Doug.
well, if each township's supportive of it, of course, the board would support that. And I think in that area, you don't have any cities that are going to get to a city of the first class anytime soon to want to take over and have their own fire department. Or is that the city of the second class?
Second.
Okay, city of the second class, and that's 10,000. So you got Linwood would be the city. I don't see
Well,
it.
you also have Tonganoxie, and you have Bonner Springs, and you have DeSoto.
Well,
That's what they're worried about. So,
Yeah,
but you're right, primarily.
Yeah, but if these are two townships, if they want to form a fire district, I think we should support them. And if they don't want to support a fire district, I think we should support them.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioners, I want to assure you, the first thing that I addressed was that this board is not in any way directing them to form a fire district or not to form a fire district. That you've offered my services to facilitate the formation of a fire district, that you would turn over the governance of that fire district to them. And I will say this, it was an hour-and-a-half meeting, their questions were germane. I thought it was productive, but I've tried to impress upon them, it will be their decision. And that they will run the fire district, not you.
Absolutely.
And just a note, it was much longer than that. But you left.
Commissioner,
I was there till 11:30.
Commissioner,
11:30.
if a meeting lasts more than an hour, it's not a good meeting.
That's what
I think I was saying. We're going too far. Anything else, Mike?
Nope.
You got a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. Mr. Collins?
Aye.
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 All right.
We